Greetings and welcome to week 10 of Web Development 2, CS295. We are going to be going over PHP sessions. And what sessions are going to allow us to do is actually remember if you are logged in. So last week you created a login page just to get the information from the database, to make sure that they're logged in, check to verify everything. Well, right now, today we're going to figure out how do we now know on another page if we're there or not, right? So let me give you a couple demonstrations and understanding, and kind of look at the code. But what I'm saying, right, if I have an index page and this index page has a login in it, and this one doesn't, but let's say it does, right? It has a login page. And then we have the variable page, right? And let's say you log in here and then it takes you to the variable page. And in theory, right, you shouldn't be able to get to the variable page if you log in, right? Let's say there's a link here to it or whatever, but you need to log in first. Well, the problem is if I just go to the variable page, so when I spelled that right, yeah, there you go, right? I can get there, right? There's nothing stopping me from just typing in this web page. So how do we stop it, right? And we already said it doesn't remember you. So if I do log in and come here and I say you need to be logged in, then it's not this page that logged in. But again, more importantly, right, it's get there. So how do you remember? Now there's other ways. You can also use cookies and whatnot. But for now, just to show you the understanding, this is an easier concept, quicker concept to understand. We're just going to work with a session, which has some similarities as cookies. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from session start and send information from one page to another page. That will always be there, right? And we'll kind of remember if you have a post, if you refresh that page, it's no longer a post, so therefore all the post data goes away. So in this case, it's going to stay, right? It kind of stays in your browser, and your browser sends it over every single time. So, I mean, the first thing you need to do is actually start the session. Now, because who knows how many times you go to this web page, there is a piece of code that you put in there first to say, hey, if it's already started, don't start it again, right? So this is check if it's not active. If it's not active, then you start it. And then as we go down, the session, as I said, it's already that global variable that we've been talking about this whole time, the get, the post. Well, session works the same way, except for it's session, right? So it's kind of like a list, dictionary, however you want to call it, where it's going to set this information. So green is going to get sent here and then set. And again, remember, if this was a post, right, you send this over and it's done, right? You post once, it's done. A get would need to be up here, and we'll kind of show a get today as a reminder. But if that's not there, then it's not there, right? So this is a session. And again, this is just how you start it. Again, you need to protect it, but that's how you start it. And then this is a second page. Now, again, the beauty of this is once I set the session, right, I can just go to this next page and it'll work. Now, we'll talk about other things like, hey, if something is true, then set a session. Like, again, if they're logged in, then set the session, right? And then if there is a session set correctly, then go ahead and let them go in. So let's kind of look at that in the code editor real quick. So I have my session start. All right, so again, I'm just going to copy this, but you got to first check to see if the session's there, and then start the session, right? Because otherwise, this code won't work, right? If you don't start the session, this code won't work. So let's go ahead and set a session variable, right? So $_session. We just talked about that, so you write the global variables, and let's just call this first, and then equals hello world, right? Don't forget our semicolon. All right, now this next piece we are going to get is if we have a test set, we're going to set it to whatever that is. All right, so and this will help us change it easier, right? This is going to allow us to be able to send it back and forth a little bit easier by just changing a little piece of the code. So let's go ahead and again _session, and then we'll call this second equals, and again, this is where we just get the get, right? So because we're testing if it gets there, if it is there, let's get it. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and set it to something else. Let's just call it no get. All right, again, we'll play around with this when we get to the web page in a second. But we have our first page. Again, pretend this is a login or whatever. You come in here. If they're logged in, set the session. And normally say don't set the session or whatever. Or it's not logged in or whatever, whatever you're trying to do to track to see if it's there, right? So you can use an if statement to check if the password is a password and all the other things you did to do the login. Then you can set the session, and then whatever you set in the session is what you're going to use to double check if they're logged in or not. So let's go ahead and save and close that one. Now, you're not going to see a lot in this page. Just it started the session, but now it's started. So when we build our next page, a couple things. One, if you remember this, right now this is set to no get, right? There's no get there because I didn't actually put a get into this as well. But let's go ahead and go to this one, and then we'll grab that, check if the session started, which it has been. So this now should not run when we go to this page because the session is going, right? The session is going right now, at least it should be, unless we do something wrong. The session is going. So let's go ahead and echo, and we could set to a variable or whatever. Very often what you'll do is, right, because we called it first and call this whatever, we can get the session. Let's see, it was first. And then we go in here. And we're going to come back and, well, right, there is no test, right? We called the other one second. So we can get first, and we can echo first. Well, if I spell it right. And then I can echo BR, and then dot. And here's what I'm saying. We can just straight echo the session, right? So again, whatever you're trying to do, however you want to do it. Second. All right, and again, there is no session test, right? Let me fix this. So there is a session. There is a test session, which there won't be. But again, this could be as we go to this. All right, are they logged in? Yes. I mean, you want probably more than that. First, check if it's set, and then check some more information if it's set to the correct stuff. But we can have it say, all right, it's not set. Done. There's no session. Also, there's the die command. So, and I'll show you this real quick. Echo I didn't die. So let's just take a step back, think about this again. We're checking the session. Again, these should be already set, right? We already set these on this page. So these are set. It should echo them, have a line break, echo the next one. Let's just go add another break just in case. And then if there's a session test, which there's not, right? We only create it first and second. It will say there's the session. Otherwise, there is no test session, and it's going to die. So it should not say I didn't die, right? Again, as an example, if you just go straight to this page, right? If I go straight to this page, and I'll probably open up another browser window to show you what I'm talking about in a second. But if you go straight to this page, then it's going to not let you in, right? That's kind of the goal. Now, again, in this case, I'm just showing you how to get the session across. That's the main point, so I'm just going to save and close this. But again, session end. So we go over to session end. And then hello world. There was no get, right? And we'll go back to this code real quick. And let's change that to just session. It's all right. There was no get. That was the the second, and I'll just go back to that code in a second, and then there was no session for test. So it died, right? It did not echo this, right? There is no test session. There is no test session. It died, and it did not do any code after the die statement, right? So that's a method as you're first kind of learning, just to get used to it, to stop it, right? That's a quick, easy way to say, all right, if we get here, do not do any more code. We're done. End of session, right? Now, normally you do it above this, right? You just, I'm done. It's over. Be done with me. But we die, and it didn't go. So real quick, let's go back to the start session. Remember, I set first to this, and there was no get. So this did not run, right? There was no get. So that's why we see the no get here. And there was no test session, right? In fact, I have currently no method. I'll add it in a second. I have no method in this to actually get that to work. But let's go back to start real quick. And then, remember, it doesn't do anything. It reset these right here. We're on start, right? It did this, and it did this, right? So it reset those to those. Nothing fancy. But if we do our question mark, test equals, let's say hi, enter, and this run more time just in case. All right, so again, I'm not seeing anything, but it's different now. We set hello world. There is a get called test. There is a get called test. And now we're going to say whatever it is. So hi should be the second. So when we go over to end, I probably should have put a link to end over here, but for demonstration purposes, there we go. Hello world, it no longer says no get. Now again, the beauty of this, we don't need that, is this session is only for this, right? So I can Control C, I'm going to open up everyone's favorite browser, Edge, wait the 10 minutes for it to load up, and then again, I posted that session end, and there we go, right? Those two sessions don't exist, right? It was sent over. I can refresh this page as many times as I want. It's not going to break it. I can copy this. I can paste it into this, and it's still going to work because it's a session, right? What I just did, you couldn't do with a post, right? You couldn't do that with a post because post just posts that one time. This is how sessions work, right? I can go to any page now, any page on 00 web host, right? Any page on 00 web host, and I have those two session variables. They're there. I can use them over and over and over again. That is the concept of sessions. Again, you just keep tracking that everywhere. Are they logged in? Are they logged in? What's their username? And any piece of information that you want to know about it, it's there. That is kind of the gist of this. And this is the last piece. This is the last piece of the puzzle. You can now start making fairly advanced web pages. I do recommend going out and doing more research, finding best practices, because they're always changing. I mean, I'm just giving you the tools that can get you going in the right direction to get things working, but you now have the ability to post and get and create databases with information like usernames and scores, whatever you might be needing to store, records. You can get the information back out of the database and put it onto a web page. You can update that information from the web page. You can check logins from a web page. And then we just learned how to check that login and whatever information you need from the login, the username, ID, security level they might have, and you can pass that along to all the different pages to make sure that they can get to the information that they need on your web page. And that is the basics of doing sessions for this, right? You should hopefully now be able to take that information and upgrade your login to actually go ahead and redirect and then keep a session. Again, if they are correct password, then you create the session for that data, right? Other than that, the only thing I could change real quick on this is just to go ahead and give a session test real quick. So session test. Yeah, I don't really need to change anything because the point of it was if I run this, right, if I just go here and I haven't actually created the session end, right? So again, we're still getting this. We have the no get because I have the no get. I ran this last without a get, so I got no get. That's why that changed. And then finally, again, we'll look at the end. Last thing we'll look at. Again, I just created the test if I refresh this page, right? As you can see, there's no test session. When I refresh this page, it just created the test session. And now, also, that no die is not going to happen, right? There is one. So therefore, it's going to get the I didn't die. Again, it's not a post, so I can just refresh the page. There is a test session. It didn't die because it did not run this line of code. And again, you're going to need to be able to take this information, extrapolate it to work for whatever project you need. I can't think of every single scenario for you. If you are interested in this, you're going to need to do your own research. But I have given you all the basic tools to kind of point you into what it can do. You can make some basic web pages and then go out and research the best practices on how to do this. Thank you a lot. It's been a great session, great course. We'll see you later.